Please identify yourself, sir.
Thank you, Chandan. Sidney Ribeiro.
Yeah.
Without going into the Teesta triumphant or the false syllogisms of Subramaniam Swamy or the very persuasive inspirational United Nations version of civilizational treating of Praveen Bhai, मेरा सवाल बनतवाला साहब के लिए है. Bhaijan, I am Sidney Ribeiro, President of the All India Interfaith Forum, which came through the baptism by fire in 1984 and is still alive. मेरा सवाल ये है भाईजान कि अगर ये डेनिश कार्टून बहुत ही वाहियात चीज़ है, इसमें कोई शक नहीं है, इट्स समथिंग वेरी नास्टी एंड नेगेटिव, जाहिर है ऐसी चीज़ होनी नहीं चाहिए थी, लेकिन क्या जस्टिफिकेशन है किसी भी शख्स को कि हिंदुस्तानी प्रॉपर्टी को या हिंदुस्तानी इंसान को वो जलाए और डिस्ट्रॉय करे? और आपकी आवाज़ कहाँ थी? मुल्ला की जाने इंडियन कौन, लेकिन भाई साहब आप तो मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट हैं. Should you not have stood out and condemned the violence that was perpetrated and thereby undermining not only Islam but also seeking to undermine the power of India's secular polity? Thank you, Chandan.
Thank you, Mr. Ribeiro. Mr. Banatwala, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. First, I must clarify that right now I am not in the parliament, I am an ex-MP. Now, you yourself have condemned the caricature cartoons, and I thank you for that and for your broad-mindedness. Of course, as you must have listened to me, I had made it very clear that there is no room for violence. We have been making that very clear. But then we have also to consider the other side. Violence is ruled out. But consider the intransigence of this world, that despite condemnation, very arrogantly, one after the other, the same type of cartoons are also being reproduced by others in an arrogant manner. And this arrogance has its own provocations. Of course, nobody should accept such provocations, but then let us have the strong voice, not merely to condemn caricatures and cartoons with respect to Islam, but with respect to every religion and with respect to every religious personality, and to see to it that those responsible are brought to justice. Let the United Nations rise and make an international convention, an international law applicable to all for prohibiting such types of abuse whatsoever, and also providing for the punishment of those responsible for that. You merely condemn and then keep quiet, and then arrogantly others continue, and you continue to snore and have your slumber. Is that the justice for which you are working? And as far as violence is concerned, I have already made my position extremely clear while making my presentation. Thank you very much.
No, I think the question, Mr. Banatwala, is do you condemn the violence?
Yeah, of course I do. I said that, and it is very clear enough. Very clear enough. But when I condemn the violence, I call upon each and every one of you to raise your voice that those responsible for such cartoons must be brought to justice. If they are not brought to justice, I am sorry. The situation is different.
Thank you.
Dr. Chandan Mitra, may I ask one question?
Yes, Dr. Wali.
Thank you. Well, after every fire, there is needed water, and first of all, my profound and my very serious compliments to Mr. Arun Puri for having dared to have such a nice and such a provocative topic, and the audience and the panel to be a part of this conclave. I bow my head with proud to him and congratulate him. Give him a big hand. After this fire, I'm just now sitting and writing these couplets, and in these 4 couplets, lies the solution of this problem. तुम जिसे कहते हो केसर, the thing which you call as केसर, ज़ाफ़रान कहते हैं वो, they call it ज़ाफ़रान. तुम जिसे कहते हो केसर, ज़ाफ़रान कहते हैं वो, लवण भास्कर काही चूरण जालिनूसी है नमक. अंग वस्त्रम से पुजारी, हाजी है एहराम से, मरने के बाद सब कहते हैं एक आवाज से, है तुम्हारा भी कफन और है हमारा भी कफन. This couplet, if you understand, the message goes right to all of you, that it is the same cloth which I wear in Tirupati called Angavastram. When I go for Hajj, that is called Ihram, and which has the same message. But pronunciation makes the things different. My question to this learned panel is, all of you know when the white beam of light passes through a prism, it gives Vibgyor, 7 colors. It is this prism which is the cause of dissociation. Have we ever tried to identify this white prism, which never has any colors, but gives 7 colors to a white ray of the light which passes through it? That is the root cause of dissociation. And if we put another prism upside down onto this beam of Vibgyor, 7 colors, the light becomes white again. And that is what Mr. Arun Puri wants to do. And that is what we want to identify. My question to the learned panel is, that is also as answer to this problem. All 4 panelists, how many of security people you have carried with you and why? Can Dr. Praveen Togadia see an X-ray? Is it of Muslim or Hindu? And third is, of course, can we identify this prism? Thank you.
Well, I think these are more in the nature of observations.
At least for security, I would like to answer. Due to jihadi terrorism, repeated attempt, not by once, by so many times, I was forced by government to accept a security force.
Jihad means ahem.
No dialogue, please, Dr.
No,
Wali.
sir.
I'm sorry, I will have to stop you
sir.
there. This is
Just
not a forum for a
30
dialogue.
seconds, 30
You have made
seconds.
your point. Please, Dr. Wali, I have to request you.
Jihad
I
means
have.
ahem, and that is
This
the
need not
same
be
mouse
responded
of
to.
Ganesha, which is the Vahan of Ganesha, which I have heard from the learned people why the Ganesha has mouse, and that is the ahem. To kill that
Thank you.
ahem is the word jihad, and the Prophet is Rahmatul lil Alameen, and Kafir is everybody who is against Brahma, not against Allah,
Thank
who is
you,
against
Dr.
the Brahma, the creator.
Thank you. Dr. Dinesh Trivedi.
Thank you, Mr. Mitra. This kind of panel is only possible by Mr. Arun Puri. It's very enlightening. That's why I thought that I'll leave my parliament and come to this conclave, and I'm happy I did.
Thank you.
Strength of India is this free and fair dialogue. Mr. Banatwala is always enlightening to listen to you, and it was today as well. I just wanted little clarification on Surah 17, which you mentioned, that wrongfully killing is prohibited. Who decides which is rightful and which is wrongful?
See, Mr. Banatwala, I told you will get enough opportunity to clarify.
The law will decide whether it is rightful or whether it is wrongful. It is for the law to decide.
Which law?
This somebody in the back whom I can't see very clearly. Yes, yes, that gentleman in the rust brown shirt, right there, right there.
My name is Arvind Bahal.
Yes.
Would you like to say?
You are speaking from the Quran. The Quran to be imposed, Quran will decide through its own interpreters that who form the law. Let there be a Sharia court of those learned in Quran, and they can decide what is rightful and what is wrongful.
मेरा नाम अरविंद बहल है और मेरा इस पैनल से यही क्वेश्चन है कि हिंदुइज्म को कल्चर और सिविलाइजेशन माना जाए या रिलीजन माना जाए। और बनात वाला साहब से ये सवाल है कि इन्होंने अभी कहा था कि एनिमी को भी हमें प्रॉपर रिस्पेक्ट देनी चाहिए, और जब बात आई कि वो कार्टून किसने बनाया है तो ये इमोशनल होके कहने लगे कि उसको पेनल्टी मिलनी चाहिए।
नहीं
तो
तो नहीं मिलनी चाहिए।
आपका प्रश्न क्या है?
तो उसको छोड़ देना चाहिए, पेनल्टी नहीं मिलनी चाहिए।
डॉक्टर प्लीज
छोड़ दिया जाए
at
मतलब।
least we panelists should not react
मेरा main question है-
listen to him, you will have a chance to reply.
मेरा क्वेश्चन है मेन कि हिंदुइज्म को सिविलाइजेशन और कल्चर माना जाए या रिलीजन माना जाए?
ठीक, this is the one question you want answered.
Yeah.
All right, who will take it? Dr. Togadia.
When I pray to Ganesh or Shankar, Hindu is a religion. But when I talking, भाषा, साहित्य, भोजन, भूषा, कला, संस्कृति, स्थापत्य, तो वह हमारी सिविलाइजेशन है। जब मैं कहता हूँ आत्मवत् सर्वभूतेषु, दुनिया के सभी प्राणियों में मेरे जैसी आत्मा है, वह जो मेरी श्रेष्ठ सोच है, मेरी संस्कृति है। हिंदू धर्म भी है, संस्कृति भी है, सभ्यता भी है, और जब मैं व्यक्तिगत उपासना करता हूँ तब मेरा रिलीजन भी है।
Thank you. I'm Lynn Forrester de Rothschild from the United States. And the United States is now in the process of discovering India. And that's unfortunate, it's taken so long, but the good news is it's happening. And America is looking forward to an economic partnership, a nuclear partnership, a partnership of values. And part of the reason that America is looking toward India is because of our belief that India has discovered a formula for a multicultural, multi-ethnic society that can live in peace through democratic means. If this panel were televised in America right now, that there might, be some concern.
I think that's a tribute. That's a tribute to India.
That's right, tribute to Mr. Puri. And so my question is, do you believe that India is the model that the world should be looking at to solve these really intractable and quite frightening social and political situations around the world regarding religion and culture?
Teesta would like to take this.
Well, some of us believe, just to speak a word about the panel, is that it's a pleasure to be here. I think it is a very loaded panel because I think the rational reformist voices from different faiths are not represented here. It is the extreme voices that are represented here, and that's the problem with the panel, with due respect. Having said that, I would say I think India has already found for centuries formula of coexistence. The problem is that within a democratic polity, which has had economic and social ups and downs, and we are experiencing downs as well, the politics of religious identity is playing havoc with some of the problems of economics and social dynamics that we have, and sometimes misusing the democratic outlet. And that is why the issues of rule of law, issues of against hate speech, issues of certain non-negotiables for Indian state and Indian state institutions become very important. But as for ordinary Indians, I think the formula has been found for centuries. The question is the state today and its agencies really interested in implementing the constitutional norm or allowing hate mongers to get away with it?
Thanks. I will request Dr. Swamy, who has lived in the United States, has taught at Harvard, and would be familiar with both the countries, to perhaps add something to what Teesta has said.
The answer to the question is that India is doing better than most, but not good enough.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
My name is Rohini Nilekani, and I promise not to ask any more questions, but this is something, it breaks my heart listening to all of you, almost all of you. I'm thinking about, look at the younger generations in this country. Look at the young people in this room and ask yourselves, is anything that you are saying at all resonating with them? And I fear that we are driving people away from religion and away from spirituality. And is that what you want for the next generations?
you would like to say? Dr. Swamy.
I think you should not judge by an India Today crowd. You should go see the temples and see how the youngsters are standing in long queues and how temples are prospering around the country from private donations from the people. There is a religious renaissance that is beginning to take place, and the main thing that we have to do is to see it goes in the right direction. And that is what we need to do, how to define the essence of this country, the identity of this country.
Mr. Tripurari Sharan, please.
I would like to ask the panelists, all of you, if you recognize the fact that it's the hungry who are most vulnerable, and it's their vulnerability which actually forces them to do or forces them to follow what they do in times which turn out to be violent. So, do you not recognize the fact that unlike Marie Antoinette, who said that if they don't get bread, let them eat cakes, you should be talking about enlarging the size of the cake from which everyone can eat and be happy? Why isn't that the message that you propagate?
Dr. Togadia?
Poverty is definitely a subject, but we are, when discussing places of civilization and fault line, it is something else than poverty. Tell me, Osama bin Laden is a poor? Mr. John Lind was poor? Few people who have destroyed World Trade Center, anybody was a poor? It is not a question of a poverty or richness. It is a question of hatred, indoctrination against all non-believer. That is the major issue.
Thank you. Yes.
Quick question of Mr. Bantawala. My name is Pavan Mehra. I'm an Indian American. If what Mr.
Togadia.
Raveen said is from the Quran, all those verses, how do you, sir, reconcile that and live with it?
It's a question to you, Mr. Bantawala. How do you reconcile yourself if the quotes from the Quran that were presented by Dr.
Yes.
Praveen Togadia are correct?
Thank you very much. I was waiting all the time for this question to come. And therefore, I had asked the chairman also to give us the second time. Mr. Togadia would have heard the various ayat surahs that I have quoted, which he has not. Now there is a particular problem that in the court in Calcutta, a writ petition was filed by Chopra brothers, quoting all these ayats and asking for banning of the Quran. And the matter was dismissed. Several times replies have been given to each and every point that has been raised by him. But if somebody refuses to understand them, then there is something wrong with his understanding. That there cannot be an out of context quotations. I have already given you the golden principles with which from the Quran. And they are there for peaceful coexistence. I contest the meaning given by him to the various sentences out of context. Now he raises the question of what is kafir and this and that, and every kafir, what he means is to be slaughtered. We are so bad. Really speaking, there can be no coexistence. He has himself said that his understanding is so limited that there can be no peaceful coexistence. Whereas I have said, Quran says the entire mankind is one family. There cannot be any greater and finer principle of coexistence that is there. Now you have certain ayats and certain surahs which are quoted out of the context without the meaning that is being ascribed to it. I am prepared to take up each and every one of them and
Bharatwala,
explain.
This is not the forum where we need to go into.
But this
full
is the question that is asked.
theological discussion. I think you have made your point.
Mr. Chairman, I want to
One
respond.
sentence only, please.
This is a Quran, official authority Muhammad Pikhwatal. I request Mr. Banatwala.
We can have the discussion on this point
which is
right
a change
here.
of a context.
Each
and
and
which is
every
out
one.
of
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman,
Banatwala,
I
it is
claim my
intolerance.
right. If
Mr.
that is-
Banatwala, I am
if that
louder
is the
than
way we
him.
go,
You are
then each and
intolerant.
every
You are
item
not
must
allowing
be
me to
taken.
speak.
And we
Mr.
must be able to
Banatwala,
contest it.
Mr. Banatwala, you are absolutely intolerant, just like a scripture. If anything out of
Let him
context,
quote
first
and
Mr.
let me
Banatwala
quote.
show me.
Let him quote and let me quote if that is what you want.
We are going to all request Mr. Arun Puri to organize a discussion on the Quran and the Ayah
No, can
and
I have
invite
a word?
both of them.
Yeah.
And perhaps there is no need for an audience.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yes, Teesta, you want to
I
make a
just
comment?
wanted to make a
Yes,
point, and I think this is important to realize. It's reflected in the panel's responses. Every scripture, every book, be it the Quran, be it the Bible, be it the Manusmriti, which Manusmriti or the Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita for Hindus could be read in 3 different ways, depends on how you interpret it. If you want to interpret it as dharma versus adharma, if you want to interpret it as an opportunist way of looking at battle, you can interpret it in 1,000 different ways. Are we going to sit here and selectively pick up certain scriptural aspects? And I'm really surprised at Mr. Togadia because he's left out the Christian missionaries because today he decides that US is a good ally against Osama bin Laden. Otherwise, Christian missionaries were his big target. No, I must point this out. And I have to also say that it must really be, if we had a Swamy Agnivesh here, if we had a Dr. Asghar Ali engineer here, if we had a Valsan Tampu here, you would see each of them exchanging scriptural notes and praising each other's scriptures, for heaven's sake. That's the lived experience of India, not Togadia and Banatwala.